Is this thing on? Hi, I'm Ham. I like to read, and I'm going to talk about some books that I've read. Never done this before. Very excited. Very excited. I have like no one to talk about books with. I want to talk about books at length. I want to go into it. I want to, spread her open. You know what I mean? But I can't do that with my friends because they have a life. They have children and stuff. So I can't always talk about the books that I love. However, now I can. Now I can just speak into the void, and I'm really excited. Trigger warning. I do read books that are not for children. Hey, sorry, this is for adults only. Should we make it 18 and up or 21 and up, guys? What do you think? I'm sober. I can't do that. However, I might just get into it. I have read 4 books, 4 of them now since the beginning of the new year. Very happy. Currently you are sitting on my brand new Kindle stand on top of 2 boxes, hoping to get a better setup. Who knows? We need the budget for that. Okay, go fund me down below. But we'll go ahead and get started, I suppose. I have a handy dandy little notebook that I have written down some. Don't look at the pizza stain, guys. Please don't look at the pizza stain. Um, let's just get into it. Had to crack open a fresh one. Okay, today we're drinking Cherry Twist. I went to Sam's Club and I got, was it an 18 pack? An 18 pack of Alani's for like 25 bucks. And at first I was like, do I need that? And I was like, yeah, I need that. The first book that I read this year, I have the physical copy of Bad Man by, okay, Dathan Auerbach. I picked this up because little lore. I used to work at a grocery store. I worked at a grocery store for like 5 years of my life, dude. From like 16 to whatever 16 plus 5 is. I don't feel like doing the math. 21. 21. Anyway, picked this up because I was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean it's a thriller mystery in a grocery store? That sounds so fascinating. Premise of this, I should also say, I'm going to spoil these books for you. I am going to talk about these books at length. My favorite types of videos are ones where I can, sweep them up the entire house with it in the background and be like, So that's what I'm going for. Sorry, not sorry. First book I read this year was Bad Man. I actually started this around Christmas time, and then it was so boring. I set it down and did not continue reading it and finish it until like a week ago. I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. I'm just going to be so for real. I have tried to film the summary of this book like 3 or 4 times, and I keep getting myself so worked up, and this book made me so mad that I'm just going to make it brief for you. This book was not good. I think I ended up giving it like 2 stars, and that's why I like set it down, picked it back up, set it down, picked it back. Like it took me so long to read this. And then the other books that I read so far this year ran through. Not like that, not like that. The premise of this follows Ben and Eric. Ben is the older brother. He took his little brother Eric to the grocery store just to shop for the family, and Eric ends up just disappearing into thin air while they're in the bathroom together. It jumps to 5 years later. Now this is like a small town. It's like 500 people, so everybody knows everybody. And the sheriff is working. He's been doing what he can to find Eric, okay? But if you have no leads, you have no leads. But Ben does not want to believe this, and he has continually tried to search for his brother to the point where it's become like kind of annoying to everyone in the town. Like he's going door to door with missing posters every single week. He's calling the hotline every single week. He's bothering the sheriff, like to the point where he's become a nuisance. And as time goes on, Eric or Ben is like, okay, well, eventually I have to get a job. And unfortunately, the only place that is hiring is the grocery store. What is so weird to me is that when he applies for this grocery store, has the interview, like the disappearance happened in the grocery store, correct? You're following? Great. Why the hell doesn't the manager recognize him after all this time? You don't recognize this man? You give him a job. Whatever. Ben starts working there. He's an overnight like stalker, like he stalks shelves. Weird shit starts happening. Now, when I read the summary of this book, I was under the impression this was like an anomaly, parallel universe type book, correct? Because while Ben's working there, suddenly the stuffed animal that went missing with Eric showed up in the Lost and Found. Suddenly, missing posters are showing up with weird symbols drawn on them. But though it's not. It's not. And when I got to the middle end of this book, I realized that it wasn't that, and it made me so mad because it would have been so much more interesting if it had been. Ben is like, "Well, I'm finding pieces of Eric. Now I have to go and start the search again." So he prints out a bunch of missing posters, but instead of like the Florida missing person hotline, he puts his personal phone number down instead. And he starts again going door to door asking people, "Have you seen my brother? Have you seen Eric? I'm finding pieces of him. I know he is somewhere. He is not dead." And he ends up in this like kind of rundown neighborhood, and he goes to this house that belongs to the Cotters. And they're like the people that are like barefoot on their porch with dip in their mouth, spitting on the sidewalk type shit people. There is a man living there named Ty Cotter. When Ben like goes onto his front porch and is asking them if they've seen Eric, Ty Cotter is like, "I hope he's dead." Really aggressive. And you think, he did it. You think this is going to have something to do with the story. Ty Cotter is so freaking mean. He must have something to do with it. He must be leading me somewhere. He doesn't. In the very next chapter, when Ben goes back to question Ty Cotter again because he cannot get him off his mind, he must have something to do with my brother's disappearance. He's in jail. So again, do not give me something and then do nothing with it. That's what this whole book did. It was a whole nothing burger. Do not show me a gun if you are not going to shoot it later on. Don't piss me off. So nothing happens with Ty Cotter. Ben continues working at the store. A tragic accident occurs where like if you work at a grocery store, you know what the baler is. You like take all the cardboard, put it in there, smush it up, and it makes a big cube that you can take like to the recycling plant, whatever. I don't know. I never had to use it. I was the customer service desk when I worked at a grocery store. But so Ben and his coworkers, they're making a freaking bail. And Ben's pressing the button, just like staring off into space, thinking about his brother, of course, 'cause that's all he can ever think about. And on the baler is a drawing, and it's the same drawing that was on one of the missing posters that his coworker found. And so he just like wow 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 like zones out and is staring at this while this bail is being made, and his coworkers are like yelling at him, but he's not interpreting what they're saying. The wire snaps and cut slices, almost decapitates one of his coworkers. And so he's freaking bleeding out on the floor, and they're like, "Man, call 911." And what does he do instead of just going to the service desk and calling 911? He goes up into Palmer's manager office and starts rummaging around in there. Like, give me a freaking break. But while he's up there, he finds like a bunch of tapes and is like, "Well, now I have to find my way back up there because I bet you my brother's on one of these tapes." By the way, the coworker that like got his neck sliced, he's fine. He just like can't work anymore. Marty, the other coworker, he ends up leaving, I think for like personal reasons, because he's like, "I just can't freaking do it anymore." And so the only two remaining characters that are at the grocery store is Ben and then also Beverly. Beverly is an elderly woman who works in the bakery. She comes in at like 4 in the morning and starts, baking pies or whatever. So Palmer, the manager, he calls Ben up to the office one day and he's like, "Hey, I have an accident report. I need you to like fill this shit out." And Ben's like, "No." Because I think Palmer wants him to say that like the accident was all Ben's fault, and Ben's like, "Well, it wasn't my freaking fault. Like it was a tragic accident. That's just what it was." And so when Palmer's like, "Oh, you're not gonna sign the freaking papers?" Boop, he hits the intercom and he's like, "Beverly, to my office, please." So he calls sweet little Beverly up and he fires her. Why does he fire her? Because she gave Ben a cake because they celebrate Eric's birthday every single year. She gave him a cake for free. "Here you go. You take this." Palmer fires her, even though that happened like freaking 2 weeks ago. He fires her. She's been working there for like 50 years, man. It sucks. So he signs a report and then he goes over to Frank's house, the one that got like his neck almost cut off. He goes over to his house and he's like, "Man, I freaking got Beverly freaking fired. We should go to her house and apologize." And Frank's like, "All right, brother, like whatever. What else am I doing?" So Ben goes back up into Palmer's office on the next shift and he's like rifling through all of Palmer's stuff again. And he brought a camera and he takes pictures of the stuff. Mind you, all of the pictures are suddenly deleted off of it once he gets it back. And so nothing happens with that again. But he finds Beverly's address. So him and Frank go to this address. There's no house there. Freaking weird. But it's over by the woods. So Frank is like, "Well, I mean, we can just like cut through the woods and go to this neighborhood over here and see if, we can talk to anybody." So they go through the woods and there is an abandoned car. And Frank's like, "Freaking sweet." Frank's like, "This is great." And again, what pissed me off is the author is like, "Ben was so freaking fat, he didn't know if he could fit into." Shut up. He ends up getting into the car and looking through like the glove box and stuff, and hey, nothing's in there. Nothing happens with the car. There's nothing in there. Why'd you show me the car if there's nothing in it and nothing happens? Did you just want to tell me Ben's fat again? Shut up. But as they continue on the trail, there's an abandoned house. And they're like, "What if this is Beverly's house?" So yeah, they go inside and there is like mail addressed to Beverly and it's like addressed from some school in Virginia. And Ben is like, "Oh, one of my dad's coworkers worked at that school at some point. I'm gonna go talk to him." While Frank and Ben are in this house, some random blonde kids outside. And they try to chase him and he disappears. Whatever. Ben ends up getting fired from the grocery store. He's like, "I've just had enough of you. Get the frick out of my store, man. Don't come back." And he uses this as kind of like an advantage because, perfect timing. Now I can go work with my dad and ask my dad's coworker about the school that I found in Beverly's house. And it ends up being like Frank or Marty's dad too. Like the town is way too small for me. I cannot do this. I can't deal with this. The dude ends up being really weird about the school and Ben asks him about it. And so Ben in the meantime, gets rehired at the grocery store. What are we doing? He gets rehired at the grocery store and doesn't have to work with his dad anymore. He only worked with him for like 2 hours. I don't know. So he ends up going back to his dad's coworker's house to ask him again about the school. And he like stole his dad's truck to get there. And he's like talking to the man. He's like, "I'm gonna take your son and we're both gonna drive to the school if you don't tell me what's going on." And he's like, "Don't do that, don't do that." And ends up saying, like, "Yeah, when I worked there, it was like a mental institution. It was not a school. Like there were people screaming, and Beverly was one of the nurses, I think, and it was insane. It was insane." Hey, they never end up going to school. Hey, it's never mentioned again, by the way. Nothing happens with that. He ends up trying to go back to Beverly's address. And that blonde kid is back there, and the blonde kid is like, "I know where your brother is." Freaking what? "Freaking take me to him. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Mush, mush." And so Ben follows this kid back to Beverly's house, and Beverly is there, and she starts talking all kinds of crazy. She's like, "I've always wanted children but can't have them, and so I stole this little boy and I stole your brother too." Which is where I really got disappointed because, again, I wanted this to be a book about the grocery store being like a sentient object and like stealing children and Ben end up getting Eric back and it being paranormal, but no, it's just this random side character who's clinically insane but has been working as a baker for 50 years in a grocery store who had this boy the entire time, and also another random boy. Like, what are you talking about? You got multiple children living in your basement. It's not in the basement. The little blonde kid ends up leading Ben out into the woods, and Beverly's like chasing the both of them, and the little kid's like, "Come this way, we'll get your brother." Eric's in a tree, like 15 feet high up in a tree. And so Ben climbs up to get him, and Eric like kicks him in the freaking face and he falls to the ground. And while Ben is like half conscious, like lying on the ground, hurt, the little blonde boy and Eric are talking and he's like, "Take me back to mom, Beverly." And like this man is so scary. Well, he like does not remember Ben whatsoever. And then it ends. And there's like an epilogue with Ben's dad who's going to the sheriff and he's like, "It's kind of weird that both my sons disappeared." The sheriff's like, "Yeah, what are you going to do?" And that's it. I I hated this book so bad. I was so happy when it ended, but also pissed at the same time because it was just such a nothing burger. It kept feeding me little things that seemed really, really interesting and then doing nothing with those things. Hated it. I think I gave it like 2 stars. I would not recommend this. It's not even like a hate read. It's just bad. Again, when I said that this is not content for like kids, like people who are under 18, 21, whatever, I mean it because I read splatterpunk. I read Playground by Aron Beauregard. Oh, I had been looking for this book or I've been wanting to read it. It's been on my TBR for a while. But like, you go into Barnes and Noble, like they're not gonna have this on the freaking shelf. What do I know? This little mom and pop bookstore, literally within walking distance of me, had it. I went to their horror section, they had so much splatterpunk. When I tell you I slapped this on the counter, beaming ear to ear because I had found it. I had a physical copy, I had it, and the owner was like, "Hell yeah!" So excited to finally sit down and read this. Unfortunately, it was a little lackluster. Now, when you read splatterpunk, the thing that I like about it is how visceral. It makes you it makes you feel something. It punches you in the face with it. It's disgusting. And sometimes after reading like so much thriller and romance, I need something that's just like, oh my God, like what is this? And it's interesting to me how people can take, or authors can take words to make you taste something, to make you smell something, to feel something. That's why I like splatterpunk. I understand it's not for everyone, and some people are like, "You're disgusting, you freak," and I get it. But I also like horror movies. I'm also into, gross stuff. Sorry, not sorry. Playground is about this older woman, older rich woman named Geraldine. She is like 80 something years old and she's freaking nasty. She has always, oh god, I don't even know if I can talk about this on YouTube, but she's just freaking nasty. She and this random Nazi doctor man made this playground, and they are going around and trying to find families to try out this playground. And she has this like butler son type character named Rock. He's a big man, but she's like made him super submissive by being really abusive to him. And so it's his job to go around and find families. And Rock does. He finds two families. One consisting of mom and dad named Tom and Molly, who have three kids, and then Greg and Lacey, who have four kids, boys and girls, all like under the age of 10. But then Rock also, he's trying to find one more family. He goes to a playground, and there is this woman who's pushing her son, Donnie, on a swing. But Donnie's on a leash at the same time. And Rock is standing there and he's watching them. And she pulls on the leash really, really hard. And Donnie like falls off the swing. And she starts berating him. She's like, "I told you to hold on. You did this to yourself." No, no, no. And Rock is like, "This is exactly what my relationship with Geraldine is like. It's awful." And Donnie, the whole time, the little boy, is just blank faced, no emotion. And Rock is like, "Yeah, I choose them. I'm going to give them this last brochure, and they're going to come and try out this playground." Because the thing with how they get these families to come to the playground is they say, me, Geraldine, I, run a charity, and I'm wanting to donate a playground to a city in need. And so if you come out and you try this playground, not only will I give you $4,000, but I will then choose one of your communities to give a playground to. And the families are like, "Hell yeah." Tom and Molly, they're like the more normal family, like they're all put together. And they're just like, I mean, we got to pay bills, man. Like, this would be great. Greg and Lacey, Greg is one of those dads where he's like, "My boys are gonna grow up and play baseball, whether they like it or not. They're gonna be so tough and they're gonna love it." They're gonna use the money to like get their kids into baseball or some shit. But Greg is just like super hard on his children. Um, so those are the families. Tom and Molly, their three kids. Greg and Lacey, their four kids, and then Donnie and his mother. All show up to Geraldine's house, and she gives them the whole spiel of wanting to donate a playground, and this is what's going to happen. But what they don't know is that the kids are going to be on the playground, and the parents are going to be in a separate viewing room. And of course, the parents are like, "What the hell? Like, I can't be away from my kids from that long. What if they get hurt? What if something happens?" And Geraldine's like, "But when you were a kid, did you play more and have more of an imagination when your parents were there or when they weren't watching?" And they're like, "All right, that's fair." So the kids are shooed into this playground, and Geraldine takes all the parents and takes them to a viewing room. Oh, and at this point, Donnie and his mom have not shown up yet. While Geraldine is taking the rest of the parents to the viewing room, Donnie and his mom do show up, and Rock goes to the door. Donnie is, he's just standing there, no expression on his face. And the mom pulls on the leash, and Donnie falls, and she's like, "I told you not to move a muscle. Why are you can't get away from me? You can't move anywhere." Blah, 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 blah. Rock beats the shit out of her. He pommels her to the ground and like kills her. And Donnie is still just has no emotion to it whatsoever. We never get inside of Donnie's head. All of the other, because it's written in third person omnipotent, so you know everything that's going on like in every character's head, but not Donnie. Rock then after killing his mother, takes him to the playground with the rest of the kids. But he's like, man, Geraldine's gonna freaking kill me when she finds out that I killed this woman, but I had to because she reminds me of her, and I needed to get all this frustration out. Like, so all of the parents are in the viewing room, and it's kind of set up like a movie theater with a big screen and like a bunch of seats. So the parents choose, random seats, and they sit down. But then Geraldine starts to reveal that it's not necessarily as easy as just watching their kids play. While they were like on the road to Geraldine's castle, Lacey's daughter Tanya gave her one of those like slap bracelets, the ones that have like the measuring tape inside and like you slap it on your wrist and it forms a bracelet. And so Lacey is like looking at it and is like, "Oh, I love it so much," but then she drops it. She drops it while Geraldine is having the speech of, "You guys aren't going anywhere." And Geraldine presses a button and these metal collars come around to hold the parents where they are, like they can't move. But when the metal collars are being dispensed, that's when Lacey's bending down to pick up the slap bracelet and it goes right through her neck, bro. Insane, insane. And so now all of the parents are like, can't go anywhere and they're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, she's dead, she's dead." There's this freaking baller part of the scene where Geraldine comes over, picks up the bracelet, puts it back on Lacey's wrist and goes, "You dropped something, sweetie." Ugh, I love little quips like that. There's also one other quip with Greg. It's right here. It's the only thing in this book that I highlighted because I thought it was so funny. It's where Bobby's being like, Bobby's one of Greg and Lacey's kids. That Bobby's being stupid. And he's like, "So where the freak is this freaking playground? I'm ready to freaking go." And it says Greg turned around shooting laser beams through the most disappointing sperm he'd ever unleashed. I just thought that was funny. So yeah, Lacey's freaking dead. And her husband Greg is freaking out. All the parents are freaking out respectively. Like, I get it, you're freaking out. And Geraldine is like, "No, no, just sit back and watch." So she turns on the screen and all the kids are just playing in the playground. And some of the boys start feuding. Two of them, Isaac and Tanya. Isaac is from Tom and Molly's family. Tanya is from Greg and Lacey's family. They're kind of like the older kids of the bunch, and they kind of team up and like take the lead from here, where they're like, "Stop being mean, don't be a bully, let's all work together." And so they're picking on the younger kids, and then Rock shows up with a bunch of Dobermans who were like snarling and snapping, and they're like, "What the hell is happening?" There is a gigantic slide on the playground. I'm talking like skyscraper tall, and a metal door opens up on the slide and you hear Geraldine go on, like over a loudspeaker. She's like, "Let's go on." And Rock unleashes the dogs. The dogs end up attacking one of the kids, but all the kids are ushered into this chamber inside of this giant slide, which shuts, and the elevator goes up to the top of the slide and the kids have to slide down. And from here on out, all of the playground equipment is like in some bunker underground, and each section of the playground is like a test for the kids to get through, and whoever wins at the end gets to be Geraldine's next minion, essentially. So like the first slide that goes down, they go down has like a bunch of razor blades, and then there's like a merry-go-round that is surrounded by a bunch of toxic waste. And so from here on out, it's just like depictions of which kids are getting picked off and who makes it to the end. One thing about the collars that the parents are wearing, which they're watching everything unfold, each of their kids dying, by the way, it's insane. One thing about the collars that the parents are wearing is there's a button on the side of it, and Geraldine explains that you only get one time to use this button because it will broadcast your voice to wherever the kids are and you can talk to them, but only once, only once. So the first time this is used is when the kids are on another slide, and this is like halfway through all the rooms that they're getting through. I think it's Bobby who's the biggest like dick of them all. Him and I think it's Sadie. They're on the slide, and on the slide there are these like saw wheels, like the power saw wheels that are going up and then coming down. And majority of the kids find out like, okay, if I go down at this time, I'll miss all of them and I'll make it to the end. And so Bobby and Sadie are at the top of the slide, and Greg, the mean ass dad, pushes his button, and he's like, "You know what to do, Bobby. Let her rip." So Bobby like shanks Sadie and uses her as like a surfboard down the slide. Tom and Molly, they're like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And so they get into this big fight in the viewing room of Greg being like, "Listen, we are all gonna die. It is so obvious to me we are all gonna die. My kid's gonna come out on top." They go through some more rooms, but Tom and Molly kind of get together, and because Rock is standing there watching this too, but they kind of get the vibe that he's just like Geraldine's little minion. So they're like, "Hey, man, you don't have to do this." And they start talking to him, and Rock doesn't want to let them like get into his head, right? But he's watching Donnie on the screen, and Donnie's passing all of these rooms with flying colors. And he doesn't speak either. He's literally blank faced through the entirety of all of the rooms. But Rock really just admires this kid because he sees himself in him. So the more that he watches this and is kind of letting what Tom and Molly say get into his head, he's kind of like, you know what? You're right. So the kids come to this next room, which is a bunch of monkey bars over, I think it's like a pit, like a tar pit or fire or something like that. And Rock ends up giving Tom and Molly some information. And so Molly pushes her button, and she's like, "Hey kids, the monkey bars are greased. Don't even try the monkey bars. You're going to have to climb on top of them and like hop on top of them instead of like swinging from them." And so she's able to help them out. This, I think, pisses off Geraldine. Geraldine and the random Nazi doctor are in another separate room, like drinking champagne and celebrating. And she comes out and she's like, "Why the freak did you do that?" Like throws a champagne bottle at Rock, and he gets cut up on his face. Rock comes back and he's all cut up, and this is finally when he's like, "I'm sick of it." It's finally his breaking point where he's like, "I can't do this anymore." So in the last room, it is just Tanya, who belongs to Greg, and Donnie, who doesn't have a parent anymore because they're freaking dead. A voice comes over the loudspeaker. The last button on Tom's necklace is pressed, but not by Tom. It's Rock, and he's like, "Stay there. We're coming to get you." What now ensues is the collars come off. Rock takes the collars off of them. Greg and Tom and Molly get into this giant fight, and they end up killing Greg as well. So now Tanya doesn't have any parents. Another scuffle breaks out. Geraldine realizes that, oh my gosh, Rock is losing his freaking mind. And she runs off into, she has this like room of mirrors, and so she thinks she can hide in her like mirror maze. But Rock is like, "Dude, who I built this maze for you. You made me put up all of these glass panels for you because you're so in love with yourself. You wanted to see yourself from every angle. You made me build this for you. I know every corner of this room." And he ends up finding her and finally killing her. So Geraldine is dead as well. He ends up killing the Nazi doctor, like he's dead as well. And while this is all ensuing, Tanya and Donnie, last room together. And Tanya, in this room, there's like a bunch of blocks and a sandbox. And the last obstacle is like this giant rope that they're going to climb. And they're both like, "We are so exhausted. We can't do it." And so Tanya's talking to the boy, and she's like, why can't you speak? Like, what's your story? What's your mom like? And Donnie is spelling out in blocks. He's like, "I physically cannot speak." And he opens up his mouth, and his mom had cut off his tongue because she thought that he spoke too much. Like, oh, oh, so heartbreaking. The kids end up being rescued. Tom and Molly end up like adopting Tanya and Donnie and like taking them away. And they're looking at Rock, and they're like, "You need to come with us. Like, you need to come with us so you can help us explain to the police like everything that happened. Like, we are getting the frick out of here." And Rock says no. He says, "I'm gonna do something that I've never been allowed to do." And they're like, "What?" He's like, "I'm gonna go play." And he goes to the playground. And mind you, he's like bleeding out because of like the fights he was just in. Like he's like half dead, and he's like, "No, I just want to play." And so he goes to that playground that was next to Geraldine's castle, and he plays, and he dies. Overall, I think I gave this book like 3 or 4 stars. I enjoyed it as it was. I thought it told a really good story. I love there was like an actual resolution. Just the way that Rock would talk about Donnie and the little funny quips that were in it, I really enjoyed. It was an easy read. It was fun to go through. Was it in terms of it being a splatterpunk, was it the most splatterpunky book I've ever read? No. I've read books like 100% Match. That's a really gross one. That made you feel something visceral. In terms of it making me feel something, like, I thought the descriptions of, what happens in each of the rooms was pretty good, and there were some points where I was like, "No, are you freaking kidding me?" Like, little twists and turns and stuff that I thought were good. Overall, as a splatterpunk, I think it got the job done, but it wasn't the most enthralling read. You know what I mean? It didn't make me super grossed out the way I want it to. There are the only really points where it made me, like, wanna put it down and, like, take a Tums is when it was talking about Geraldine, but beyond that, there are other splatterpunks I've read where it's made me feel, like, more visceral reaction, which is really what I want out of them. Anytime you, like, look up splatterpunk or you read about this book in particular, you're like, "This is disgusting! You guys are sick freaks!" But it's like, I hate to be that person who it's like, "It's really not that bad." Um if you can, like, sit through Saw, you can read this. If you enjoyed Saw, you would enjoy this. I think this is where I'm gonna end this video now. I am slowly realizing that I need to free up a bunch of space on my iPhone if I wanna continue to film videos on it or just, get a camera. But those are 2 books that I've read so far this year. Unfortunately, one was pretty lackluster, but, Playground I really enjoyed. There are a couple more books that I wanna talk about, but it'll have to be in a separate video, and those books I enjoyed, like, a lot more. I do like doing this, sitting down and talking about books, like, in depth. Like I said, I don't normally get to, like, sit down and talk about books in my daily life, so this will be, like, a really good outlet for me to, yap, I suppose. Thanks for watching if you're seeing this. I really appreciate you. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe, whatever. But I read books like I wanna talk about Paradise Logic, fantastic read, and then I read Praise. Yes! So look forward to those, I suppose. I'll have those filmed later. I just gotta put this video together and see how I'm gonna do that. So again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, see you guys later. Bye.